by Honorable Marianne Kitani. She is the Aldai Member of Parliament, Kasmuel Makori. Revolutionary Makori. He is the revolutionary artist, and as well Kennedy Ondiek, political analyst. Thank you so much for getting time this morning, a gentleman and a lady. And we begin with the newspaper review. What is on our dailies this morning on the PD? Sweet deal ends up in 2.4 billion tears. Police search for online trader alleged to have duped teachers, bishops, lecturers, and lawyers of their earnings. This, remember, happened in the same county where we had the other scandal which implicated the now senator. And just to begin with Kasmuel, you know, these are Kenyans who have been duped. We have such cases, they're aired right in the public domain, but we still even have some of these persons not implicated or not arrested and jailed. Do you believe some of, you know, such deals, every, let's say, wheel of justice is greased so that, you know, they have sort of protection?
You know, for you to end up with a deal as a private citizen that swindles people of 2.4 billion, the police are absolutely doing nothing. We know this to be true because it is the same. If you look at the profit margins, this is the only business that seems to be booming. This media house, as we sit in here, did not make those kinds of capital gains. The kind of capital gains that these cabinet secretaries have declared when they were being vetted in that kangaroo vetting process was only akin to such kinds of activities. So we know that the police, this search will conclude into nothing. However, if it ends up in this arrest, then now we will understand that the only other qualification you need for you to make these kinds of illegal deals is you have to be a politician, because only politicians get away with these kinds of things. So the police, which also is a department, is an arm of government that's just being used as a tool of weaponry by the state, is something we don't have faith in to prosecute such a case. Remember, it is the same police force that confused Macharia Gaitho with Francis Gaitho that we expect to understand how to deal with a 2.4 billion graft case. It's the same police force that abducts, kills, and needs people, and then just recently called the editors to a meeting, and we saw them attend. So currently, whatever we have is a joke. Kenya is a country that's on halftime as where we stand as citizens. We know it has no government, and this is proof that there will be no power vacuum, because there currently is no government. So even what I see here is because it looked like a good headline, and therefore and the People Daily needed to put something on their front page from where I sit. This is nothing but what our leaders have shown, our representatives in Parliament and executive have shown us. This is the way to get rich in Kenya. We never see maids, those domestic workers which they want us to be. We never see them on the front pages of the dailies. But yeah, this is your example of the current administration. So good job to the young man who has made a fortune of 2.4 billion. May God continue blessing you, because we live in a praying nation.
Honorable Marianne Kitani, Finland scandal was in the same county of Eldoret, was in Gishu. President William Ruto hails from that particular county. Such deals, you know, doesn't it paint him in bad light? From where you hail from as a president, such scandals, you know, are cooked, and Kenyans are swindled into a tune of even 2.4 billion Kenya shillings. And so far, nothing is being done, especially on compensation.
I don't think it is about the county or where the president comes from or that kind of thing. What really is the issue is what we need to look at, because we have had scandals of Kenyans being swindled out of their monies. And I think we go back to the pyramid schemes. If you remember the pyramid schemes when it started, they didn't start in Eldoret, they were in this city of Nairobi. We've had cases in Mombasa, in many other towns. Why? Is because people coalesce around towns. And when people coalesce around towns, everybody is trying to eke a living. In that process of eking a living, a sweet tongue comes to you and tells you, oh, we can do this, you can multiply your money, you can do this. And of course, every Kenyan would like to multiply their money. So many people fall into this trap. Shakahola is another example of many people falling into these traps. And all these traps are nothing to do with a regime after a regime. It is about crime that takes time sometimes it takes time to be discovered, sometimes it is discovered in good time. So for this particular case, for example, the 2.4 billion fraud scheme, this gentleman goes to a church, and you know, in a church people are vulnerable and they are easily lied to.
Perhaps that's why
and that is the strategy.
Targeted the church.
No.
Is it because they are vulnerable?
No. I'm saying they are vulnerable because at that instance, you know, when a church leader talks to you and says, "Oh, now we've brought somebody who can invest your money," you are quick to listen to them and say, perhaps the pastor is actually saying something right.
So even political leaders should not be believed, especially while endorsing politicians such as the president.
That argument
no. It is nothing to do with politicians, nothing to do with politics. It is a scandal. It is a crime.
And
I think we need.
I
gave you time to speak, so you allow other people to speak.
Yeah, but
these
the argument
young
does
kids,
not make sense.
They can't allow us to speak.
The argument does not make sense at all. It's not about being allowed to speak.
These people should allow us to speak because they are pretending like they know everything and they know nothing, completely nothing.
We know when people steal.
Relax. So what I'm saying is, these schemes or this kind of schemes cannot be linked to politics. It is nothing to do with politics. It's someone who decided to make money out of lying to people. When someone like Echeza Sacco went and told people, bring your money to the Sacco, was it political? No, it wasn't political. When you've seen all these scandals that have come up, when they go lie to people, it's nothing political, and you cannot link that to politics.
It's the precedence that has been set by same politicians who end up conning Kenyans by even making false.
What I don't like is that you're bringing in someone called politician. There's nothing about politics in this.
There is.
There's nothing about politicians. There's nothing about politics. It is about someone who stole money, who went and lied to people, and that is nothing to do with politics. There is no politician involved in this particular case.
There was a politician.
The Finland scandal. I think you need to understand what the Finland scandal was all about. It was about a politician who said, "I want to help his residents or the people who came from his county to get opportunity to go to Finland."
So far, has anything happened to him?
If that issue, yes, he's in court. The matter is in court and it is being prosecuted in court. I think the first witnesses went to court about a month or two ago in Nakuru. So the matter is in court. And when the matter is in court, it is prejudicial to discuss it. Because that is a matter that has already gone through the steps of DCI, and it has gone to a step where DPP has said, yes, there's a case to answer, and that particular matter is in court.
Politicians, especially from that county, have said where they're now working scot-free.
And that is where I have a problem, because a scandal, has come out in Eldoret does not mean that everything that is negative and everything about the president is now going to be discussed. This is a normal scandal. This is a normal scandal of someone who went and swindled people in the pretext of going to invest this money for them. This is someone who went and purported to be a religious person, worked with the pastors in that church and swindled so many people. Why are we bringing politicians into it?
Your opening remarks as far as the cover page of the People Daily is concerned.
We have to first understand that Kenya is a Republican state, as I usually start, and it's guided by the Constitution. The persons you call in respect of police only serve within the context of the law, and there is no police who will ever be anywhere a deal of such kind is being struck. You know, when these people were engaging these individuals, they actually didn't involve the police. So the police only have to come after in order to look into what actually happened. And when you draw in politicians, and
Kenyans
the worst of it,
they have lamented that the police have not taken action so far.
Excuse me, Chacha. Whenever they were getting into these contracts with this person, whether fraudulent ab initio or whatever it was, there was no police involvement.
You don't know that.
Excuse me, my friend. You have to be orderly. Yeah, if you want us to entertain you in the table of big people, you have to be orderly, because in a debate like you saw how I was very quiet since you started up to when you finished. Excuse me, you cannot say that you are not lying by blaming police of an activity which went on in the absence of police. The police can only come to look into what actually has happened, because when they were engaging in this contract, they didn't involve the police, Chacha. And whenever we are talking about such a thing, we have to understand what is a scandal.
Kenya, if you deposit more than 1 million Kenya shillings, it raises alarm. 2.4 billion Kenya shillings to an account.
When you talk about 2.4 billion, they were being deposited by individual people. The police is going to look into how they were deposited, because the police were not a part of that contract. The second thing, there is a principle in tort which require that a person shall not be protected by law in action that is his own making. Exturpi causa non oritur actio. You cannot come to benefit out of tort in action of yours putting you in the same tort. Now, these individuals went into this deal. They didn't inform any government agency that they were going into this deal.
That's why
and now
Kennedy,
the government has just realistic.
How is the government not concerned with the Kenyan transacting at least 2.4 billion Kenya shillings?
Not a Kenyan, Kenyans. Because there's a large number of people. We have not known how much each of them paid and which what to have been paid by each of them and what they were paying for.
Despite investing in intelligence, that 2.4 billion can circulate in a specific region without that raising eyebrows.
In Kenya, excuse me, Chacha, in Kenya, people transact different amounts of money. And in fact, you cannot authoritatively tell me that these monies were being deposited at once. We don't know how they were doing it. We don't know purpose for which they were doing it. You don't know why they paid the deposit. Okay,
you deposited more than
excuse me. I am not privy to that. There's what is called privity to contract. This is a deal between two people. I am not part of that, so I'm not privy to that contract.
So you cannot speak authoritatively because
just like you can't speak authoritatively because your money is not there.
Then stop speaking authoritatively.
So also don't argue as if you know, and don't drag the name of the president. No, I am going to insist. I'm going to insist. Don't drag the name of the president on any issue that comes from. You are the one who started it.
You have to go back to this clip and show where I have talked about the president.
When somebody drags the name of the president, now excuse me,
I will get there.
When somebody drags the name of the president and drags the name of government in something which is not related to the government, each and every case is dealt with. Each and every case is dealt with on its own. And now, if there is a case of scandal of persons who are relating to church, pastors and the rest, let it be dealt with as it is. It is not supposed to, because the president does not decide the activities of each and every person in what's the issue. Yeah, so let us be very careful and we avoid this noise making. Yeah.
We are having an orderly discussion.
Yeah, if it is not possible that we are not going to have orderly discussion because of the heckling nature of this boy, then we are just going to leave. Because you see, when you are under this debates you engage with your children, your fellow children. You cannot come to engage us in such a noise-making things. You do those on Kamkunjis over there. You no, not pressed. Excuse me. Don't talk about being pressed. You have to first of all listen to everyone. Yeah. Yeah, because you see, if you want mic, you will be called on your own.
Kennedy, you are finalizing on your point.
Yeah, I was only saying, and without interruption, please, that one, there is a mistake that has occurred. The persons who are having a duty of investigating crime are police officers, who have also swung into action. We are yet to know what actually this contract was for, who was privy to this contract, purpose for which this contract was entered into, and then we see whether they have a right to gain or not to gain based on that contract, because we don't know what was to be performed in this contract for which they paid. So, you know, whenever we cannot ascertain whatever we are doing, unless Obakure knows what they were doing with that money. So, for me, I cannot know what they were doing because I'm not part of that contract. It is an agreement between two people. Consensus of their mind, which we call consensus addendum, on their own, not mine.
It is a matter of wait and see how the police are going to handle that. On the Daily Nation this morning, it splashes, you are on your own over high power bills. Kenyans will have to dig deeper into their pockets to purchase electricity. The National Assembly last year launched an investigation into the high cost of power and tasked a committee chaired by Mwala MP Vincent Musyoka to present a report in 120 days on how to cushion consumers. However, a year later, there is no clear roadmap on how to bring down power prices. The House has actually, Makore, gobbled millions in allowances. You know, this tendency where when we have any scandal, any issue as Kenyans, in Parliament, a committee will be set to look into it. It will take 30 days, 100 days. Even the issue of the fake fertilizer, I'm not sure yet if the Agriculture Committee has yet tabled a report on the same. But the fact that at a time that Kenyans are decrying the high cost of living, while the president has promised that that has since come down, it's evident that we'll still pay more for electricity. Makore, you know, once again on the legislature, that is tasked to speak on behalf of Kenyans, is it an extended arm of the executive?
To be fair, I don't think that is a fair question because the legislature cannot be blamed for this. And this is because we do not have a legislature in this country. It sits unconstitutionally. So they cannot handle this. You know, it's the vacuum that people have been talking about, saying that will be created is what we are currently experiencing, because Kenya currently does not have a legislature. In any presence of the law, there is no legislature in this country.
You mean there are no sitting MPs?
No. There are no sitting MPs.
Honorable Marian Kitani hears from Aldai.
Oh, yeah. It's possible that she sits in parliament, but constitutionally, this parliament should be dissolved. Because if we had a functional parliament, these people would have sorted this out. But if you think about it, at the height of our protests and civic disobedience, we'd have people even talk about their token purchases being used to track them. So this whole energy thing is a thing which they can sort if they want to. But you can see what unconstitutionalism brings. This is the yield that unconstitutionalism brings, where you have people who are only interested in CDF, people who are only interested in lining their pockets with public money, and all they can do is go and build cow sheds and boda sheds and schools, paint their names, and then right powered by this. This whole power bill, the legislature cannot solve. And the people who are supposed to solve it are not interested in solving, because it's a get-rich-quick scheme that we have in terms of running government. That's why you hear the young people clamoring everywhere, saying Ruto must go. And these people are out here, they are so pressed as though they are Ruto. And also, you know, and they are rightfully pressed, because when you say Ruto must go, we mean everybody. Now that they've been insisting that I've been mentioning the president, now I have started mentioning the president. And now we can proceed. You can bring the hostility.
Honorable Marian Kitani, you know, there's a time President William Ruto spoke well in Mombasa, in fact, on the pulpit, promising Kenyans that the cost of electricity will not go up. A few months later, that went up. And now, to bring that down against, it takes a whole committee, more than 120 days, to come up with a report recommending whether they should reduce. But on the flip side, when it comes to increasing, it's easier for that to be made. Are we, you know, pressing on Kenyans who are already down and more of stepping on their necks?
Okay, first, before I answer, please, Chacha, allow me to contribute without disturbance. I have not disturbed anybody, so I do not want to be disturbed. If he has any issues, he can note them down, and then he can respond when you give him an opportunity. Now, let me go to the issues. The Constitution of Kenya is very clear. The Constitution of Kenya was passed in 2010, and in this Constitution, it actually brought three arms of government. First is the executive, which is the implementing agency. Then we have the legislature, which does three roles. One is oversight, the other one is legislation, and the third is representation. And then we have the judiciary, who then are the oversights in terms of implementation of the laws. When you have grievances, you take them to court. Coming to this particular issue, Parliament is set up, and Parliament is supposed to oversight. But how we do it as Parliament is through committees. So when an issue comes, for example, in this case of power, when the issue came, it went to the relevant committee responsible for power-related issues. And that committee is headed by Honorable Kawaya. This is Vincent Musyoka, the MP for, is it Mwala? Yes. So that is the committee that is responsible for this. And when you say they've gobbled or they've eaten a lot of allowances, first and foremost, the committees, and I've said all parliamentary functions are done through committees. So if they are done through committees, you can't then claim that they are eating, they've taken allowances to go and sit down and just look at one report, which is the high cost of electricity. They do, among other many issues. Yes, a report came to Parliament.
But the 120
I'm talking about it.
A
report came to Parliament.
Into the cost of electricity.
Allow me. A report came to Parliament, and I asked that I be allowed to finish, and then we can now talk. A report came to Parliament saying that there is high cost of electricity. It was tabled before the committee. They were given timelines. In those timelines, this committee will have to call many institutions to come and be interrogated. And when they call all these institutions, some are private entities, some are public entities. Some are even the private citizens to come and report or give issues about this particular issue. And remember, there is a policy in Parliament that to be called to Parliament, you've got to be given a minimum of 7 days. Remember, this is not the only agenda that the committee will sit down to look at. They will look at budgets, they will look at budgets of the sectors, they will look at many other issues. Remember, this is not the only report that has gone to them for them to be able to look at. So in that process, they'll ask for 7 days for this person to come. Then when this person comes, they give their issues. They have to call again. Maybe the ministry come back again and tell us. So the process is back and forth. So, by the time we finish that process, it could have taken more than 120 days. But what I'm aware of is that the MP, that's Vincent Musyoka, has already reported to Parliament to ask for more time. And when the time, and the Speaker gave him...
translates to more allowances.
It is not more allowances, because that, I've told you, Parliament works through committees. So there is no extra allowances that you're giving. So over and above looking at other agendas, and I'm sure you've come to Parliament, you've sat in committees of Parliament, and you know that in that committee of Parliament, we have many agendas. It's not one agenda. You don't sit to just discuss one agenda. So they've asked for more time to be able to come up with this report. However, some of the issues that are bringing these electricity costs up, because some of the issues have come up, is actually the they're called the PPA agreements that was signed about 30 years ago. And those agreements were an agreement that was signed for a 25-year period to actually about 25-year period. To remove that agreement or to cancel that agreement is going to be more costly than maintaining the agreement. Those are the geothermal agreements.
Kennedy,
on
the impartiality of such chairpersons who are tasked with such critical, tasks. Vincent Kawaya is a UDA MP, an ally of President William Ruto. Could it be an exercise in futility that, just like this to Parliament, past time, but even as they do that, of course, Kenya Power continues to collect money which will not be refunded. At the same time, are we talking about the same energy chair who the road maintenance levy was increased by 7 shillings from 17 to 25 shillings in petroleum, that is in fuel prices, and we've not had his voice so far?
That is transport, not energy.
I think, Chacha, one, before I get into that, allow me make a few clarifications for the sake of the public. Number one, it is very erroneous and very uncontemplatable for an individual to come on such a national TV to say we don't have government. It has to be corrected. When somebody says we don't have a government.
A parliament.
That was the first statement you made in your first submission was that we don't have a government. And number two, you have come to state that we don't have a legislature. That one is too erroneous and too insightful, too dangerous for the sovereignty of a country.
No way. Constitutionally
of the people.
Constitutionally we don't.
Will this thing be for madness or it will be for submissions? How can you say that we don't have a legislature when we have members of parliament? It is unconstitutional even in that statement. So I was making such kind of clarification. And this is the problem of having children who don't even know how country runs. He doesn't even know, excuse me. Parliament.
On the question that I asked.
Yes,
how will I answer when the vagabond is busy making a lot of noise?
Vagabond, not vagabond.
Yes.
Proceed, Kendi.
So I am going to submit properly like this. One, we have a functional legislature with the speakers who are supposed to be serving there. Number two, I have served in a house of law, legislation. Process of legislation, because when they are going to discuss the prices of those things, they are in the process of legislating, so that when they bring a recommendation into the house, that recommendation will be part of law and will be affecting every person's action towards that particular area. Therefore, they must take process, go to committee, present a report, adopted or amended by Parliament, by the whole committee of whole house, and that one is what is passed into a law. That is what works. So number two, it is not wrong if some people who have a duty to do their job earn their salary. Are you not going to be paid for being here? Why is it that you only want to look at what a member of parliament is going to be paid for doing his job? If you want to be paid that amount that a member of parliament is doing, there's 5 years. When they are done, you have your constituency. Run for parliamentary seat, go and sit inside there, act and then earn that allowance. That's simple. Allowances are earned by those who work. And now you will earn yours, I will earn mine from where I earn, and Marco Uri will earn his. Nobody talks about his which he earns, and nobody talks about mine. Let us allow our members of parliament to do this.
Don't try to lie to
finally, the situation of power challenges. Power challenges are having, one, local challenges and international challenges. Two, There are agreements which you can't amend even if you are the current president or current minister for energy. Because we have private partnerships. These are private producers of fuel who produce, of power, who produce at their own cost. And they have agreements with the government which cannot be changed because they are consensual. It had been agreed on, and they cannot change. And that's why sometimes when people talk about Kenya Power making losses, KQ making losses, sometimes you bring it in the media and say KQ is making losses, but you don't go down into KQ and find why are they making losses.
Because you're lying.
Power is based on concessions and international agreements, some are local agreements. So let the committee sit, find how they can look at the cost of power and see how it can be brought down or otherwise be stabilized.
At that juncture, we take a short commercial break. It's already hot here in the studio.
Shouting and running like
when we come back, we'll be focusing on what next for Gen Z. Was it or is it a passing cloud? We'll be back with that conversation right here on the New Dawn. Stay tuned.